consider the path of entrepreneurship in their own countries, but they're learning and participating with people from other nations. It's really in the hearts and the minds of the individuals in each of these countries. There's a way that now we think entrepreneurs might be the force for change in their countries for things beyond just economic change, that they can actually make the world a better place. The field of entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's something of more cultural consequence. It's something that represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. The globalization of startup communities actually gives the world a much better chance at solving some of the intractable challenges of the decades past. So in a sense, we see more citizens trying their hand at helping the world innovate its way out of its challenges. The world needs more entrepreneurs. It's a question of inspiring more people to recognize that it's more important to the future of their societies than they previously recognized. Global Entrepreneurship Week is an idea bigger than all of the communities that make it up, and it represents something that we can all aspire to, which is to be part of one global community of people ferreting out better ways of doing things and improving the lives of our citizens. I'm Jonathan Ortmans, and I'm with Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week is challenging to understand in some respects because it's 35,000 events happening at the same time in 125 different countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week offers you the opportunity to come and test your aptitude, join a networking event, come and meet a mentor, come and experience a boot camp, come and experience some other element of the startup community in your city, in your town, and learn about whether or not at some point in your life you may have the interest and the skill to be able to join a startup. And I think this has been effective in allowing people to feel that they're not only driving more of their fellow citizens to consider the path of entrepreneurship in their own countries, but they're learning and participating with people from other nations. It's really in the hearts and the minds of the individuals in each of these countries. There's a way that now we think entrepreneurs might be the force for change in their countries for things beyond just economic change, that they can actually make the world a better place. The field of entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's something of more cultural consequence. It's something that represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. The globalization of startup communities actually gives the world a much better chance at solving some of the intractable challenges of the decades past. So in a sense, we see more citizens trying their hand at helping the world innovate its way out of its challenges. The world needs more entrepreneurs. It's a question of inspiring more people to recognize that it's more important to the future of their societies than they previously recognized. Global Entrepreneurship Week is an idea bigger than all of the communities that make it up, and it represents something that we can all aspire to, which is to be part of one global community of people ferreting out better ways of doing things and improving the lives of our citizens. I'm Jonathan Ortmans, and I'm with Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week is challenging to understand in some respects because it's 35,000 events happening at the same time in 125 different countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week offers you the opportunity to come and test your aptitude, join a networking event, come and meet a mentor, come and experience a boot camp, come and experience some other element of the startup community in your city, in your town, and learn about whether or not At some point in your life, you may have the interest and the skill to be able to join a startup. And I think this has been effective in allowing people to feel that they're not only driving more of their fellow citizens to consider the path of entrepreneurship in their own countries, but they're learning and participating with people from other nations. It's really in the hearts and the minds of the individuals in each of these countries. There's a way that now we think entrepreneurs might be the force for change in their countries for things beyond just economic change, that they can actually make the world a better place. The field of entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's something of more cultural consequence. It's something that represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. The globalization of startup communities actually gives the world a much better chance at solving some of the intractable challenges of the decades past. So in a sense, we see more citizens trying their hand at helping the world innovate its way out of its challenges. The world needs more entrepreneurs. It's a question of inspiring more people to recognize that it's more important to the future of their societies than they previously recognized. Global Entrepreneurship Week is an idea bigger than all of the communities that make it up, and it represents something that we can all aspire to, which is to be part of one global community of people ferreting out better ways of doing things and improving the lives of our citizens. I'm Jonathan Ortmans, and I'm with Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week is challenging to understand in some respects because it's 35,000 events happening at the same time in 125 different countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week offers you the opportunity to come and test your aptitude. Join a networking event. Come and meet a mentor. Come and experience a boot camp. Come and experience some other element of the startup community in your city, in your town, and learn about whether or not at some point in your life you may have the interest and the skill to be able to join a startup. And I think this has been effective in allowing people to feel that they're not only driving more of their fellow citizens to consider the path of entrepreneurship in their own countries, but they're learning and participating with people from other nations. It's really in the hearts and the minds of the individuals in each of these countries. There's a way that now we think entrepreneurs might be the force for change in their countries for things beyond just economic change, that they can actually make the world a better place. The field of entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's something of more cultural consequence. It's something that represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. The globalization of startup communities actually gives the world a much better chance at solving some of the intractable challenges of the decades past. So in a sense, we see more citizens trying their hand at helping the world innovate its way out of its challenges. The world needs more entrepreneurs. It's a question of inspiring more people to recognize that it's more important to the future of their societies than they previously recognized. Global Entrepreneurship Week is an idea bigger than all of the communities that make it up, and it represents something that we can all aspire to, which is to be part of one global community of people ferreting out better ways of doing things and improving the lives of our citizens. I'm Jonathan Ortmans, and I'm with Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week is challenging to understand in some respects because it's 35,000 events happening at the same time in 125 different countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week offers you the opportunity to come and test your aptitude. Join a networking event. Come and meet a mentor. Come and experience a boot camp. Come and experience some other element of the startup community in your city, in your town.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Penn State Global Entrepreneurship Week 2020. My name is Nicholas Anzalone, and I'm a senior at Penn State studying corporate innovation and entrepreneurship. In collaboration with the Small Business Development Center and Penn State Global Entrepreneurship Week, the Corporate Innovation and Entrepreneurship CENT major is thrilled to sponsor Martin Atkins joining us today. The Corporate Innovation and Entrepreneurship major focuses on educating students on innovation and adaptability. Be sure to check out more virtual events sponsored by GEW by visiting gew.psu.edu. On behalf of the major and the Smeal College of Business, we are excited to have Martin Atkins present on art and entrepreneurship in a time of crisis. A little bit about Martin first. Martin Atkins is the definition of entrepreneurial activity in cultural arts and endeavors. His 35 plus years in the music business spans across genres and borders and industries. He was a punk rock drummer for Public Image Limited and Killing Joke. Martin has won a Grammy for his work on 9 Inch Nails. He is an entrepreneur, author of 3 books, a producer, drummer, documentary filmmaker, DJ, and father of 4. Among these accolades, whatever the future of entrepreneurial music business education is, you can pretty much bet that he'll be in the middle of it. I want to encourage everyone to ask questions in the comment section of the Facebook and YouTube live stream. Martin will answer those questions at the end. The virtual stage is yours, Martin.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks to Penn State for having me come and present for you. As Nick said, I've been a musician for quite a while. I started playing drums when I was 9. I joined Public Image Limited, which is the band fronted by Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, in 1979. So you said I've been in the business for 35 years. I think it's longer than that, actually. I started when I was 9 and I'm 61, so yeah. I've played on a few albums as well. Yeah, and I'm currently the music industry coordinator at Millikin University, which is 2 hours south, driving at 90 miles an hour from Chicago. And before I start, I wanted to just read you this because it just feels timely. This is Toni Morrison. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal. That's Toni Morrison. That's stuck on my light here, just to remind me. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is creativity and art and stories, but not in a kind of a, ooh, look at my painting on the wall, isn't it nice? In a force multiplier kind of a way. Art and creativity are dangerous weapons in the right hands, and stories much more so too. So we're going to look at all these tools in the context of gasoline on a spark, right? So this story begins with my relationship with a coffee company here in Chicago called Dark Matter Coffee. It's, of course, I have to say, it's great coffee. It really is good coffee. But the thing that I like about Dark Matter Coffee is their crazy energy. They've released vinyl, a double white vinyl 7-inch split with Derek Carter, the house DJ. They've put out cassette tapes. They did a guitar effects pedal for Kirk Hammett from Metallica. They took me to Tokyo, and they did a beer collaboration with Three Floyds Brewing and the band Mastodon, right? So these are crazy creative people who happen to have a coffee company. And just as the pandemic hit, March 23rd, I think it was, I went up to Dark Matter. They have 7 stores in Chicago. And the one I went to is called the Mothership. That's kind of the home base. And I was picking up some coffee because we send out coffee to people. But I also wanted to kind of get a fix of their energy. Because as I said, they're crazy, creative people. It's like, what are they going to do next? And while I'm there, they're muted, they're anxious, they feel to me like they're frozen as the lockdown happens. They've got 107 employees, and Jesse, the owner, said, well, I'm sitting here with 50,000 pounds of coffee, and what the fuck are we going to do? So easy for me. I threw $100 in their employee help fund, right? As Nick said, I got 4 kids of my own. I can't randomly throw much more than $100 any place, right? I've got 4 kids, but it felt good to like, here's 100. Wow, and I felt like I did my part, and I get in my car. I had some kind of crazy triple shot latte situation going on. And I drive back to my office in Chicago, down by the White Sox here in Chicago. But by the time I get back here, I'm like, well, what good did that do? What is that like? I don't know if anybody wants to help me with the math. 107 employees, what is it like? 94 cents per employee. Not that much help, really. And that starts to freak me out. Their being freaked out starts to freak me out. So I did this. Like, my recording studio is over there. My print shop is through a corridor in the back there. I had one of my guys change my get the fuck out of bed design into a stay the fuck inside design, which seems kind of absolutely on point for March 20th. And the act of printing this bag was kind of good for an agitated ADHD, ADD, blah, 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 all of the above person. Like, I'm just like, well, I'm freaking out, but I'm like, I'm printing these bags. I'm doing something. And then I sign them because I know how the art world works. Right? Oh, signed. Yeah. Badly printed and signed by me. Badly printed and badly signed. And then I take 100 bags up to Dark Matter. Because Jesse had said to me, I'm sitting here with 50,000 pounds of coffee. So they pair this new bag with the get the fuck out of bed bag, and they sell that combo for $50. And over the course of the next 10 days, generate $15,000. And I call that the Dark Matter equation, right? This is force multiplying. These bags cost me, I don't know, $60 and some ink. And I actually got my 2 youngest to come and help me at the office and hang these up to dry on the lines that we have back there. So I'm bypassing the rigors of their supply chain, right? Their supply chain is 8 to 12 weeks to design a new bag, get it printed on foil. My turnaround is 8 to 12 hours, like that. So then, because I'm in the music business, we have to do a shirt. You have to. And then Busy Beaver Buttons here in Chicago, like, hey, I like what you're doing. They sent me some buttons. And then we run an experiment. I see lots of people online. We're going to do something. We're just waiting for permission. We're waiting to hear back on this grant. We're hoping that the bid, if this happens and this happens, like, fuck that. That is not punk. We don't wait for permission. We act. So we use the same bags in a kind of Radiohead style, pay what you want experiment. It's the same shirt in every bag, right? I think that we put a button in the bag, and of course I sign the bags. And unbeknownst, I have to use unbeknownst at least once. unbeknownst to anybody placing an order, there's a signed personalized note in there as well. But here's the deal. If you're not doing well and you want cheering up, order the $8, but we'll send you a shirt and a button and we'll make you feel good for $8. If you're doing okay, get the $18 or the $28 bag. If you're doing great, choose the $108 bag. Right? And this is like, we had this up very quickly. And what we tell people is anything over the 8, which covers our costs, we'll put towards what we call our Stay the Fucking Side fund. And very quickly, we get this result. Almost as many people buy the $108 bag as buy the $8 bag. And 70 people buy the $28 bag. This is just really interesting to me, right? I've been doing this for a while. At Christmas time, I'll do a choose your discount code. This language is a 10% discount. This language is a 95% discount. And I'll just play Russian roulette with discount codes, right? Just to see what people do. It's a very interesting experiment. So without doing much, just by printing another couple of hundred bags, really, and putting some T-shirts in the bags, we have $6,000 to play with. So now we can force multiply more. We don't just force multiply in terms of where we're outreaching to. We start to customize the shirts that we're sending to people. So it's great to send Stay the Fucking Side shirts and posters behind me, to people. But it's way cooler to take that little bit of extra time and shoot a separate screen and print shirts specifically for each place that we're trying to help. This is Smeal's Bar in Hamtramck, just outside of Detroit. And this is the force multiplier aspect illustrated really well. We send them 20 shirts, 20 bags, 20 buttons, then they add 4 drinks tickets and they sell the bag for 45, right? I don't know what it costs to give people 4 beers, but it's not much, right? So they're using the things at their disposal, just as I did, to create some cash flow. And my $130 worth of time and effort and goods gets them $900, right? That's that force multiplier aspect. I'm not interested in sending you some stuff that's going to sit on a shelf. I want to know that my efforts are being utilized. Bar Redux in New Orleans. If you're ever down in New Orleans, you can fit like 30 people in this place. I love it. A couple from New York moved down to New Orleans and opened this bar, and it's just really great. It's nice to be. They do the same kind of thing. T-shirt, button, sign bag, 2 drink or beer tickets, $40. So this starts to spread, right? I look at this now and I'm like, this is so much work. It's not really. 317 Art Collective. We're not happy till you're not happy. That's Reggie's Rock Club here in Chicago. They didn't want to tell people to stay inside. They wanted people to come to their venue. So I'm like, all right, I'll make you a completely different shirt. And every package gets a signed note, a personalized signed note, because why not? This Stay the Duck inside. It's a great 2-star Michelin restaurant here in Chicago. I know the owner, so I thought it'd be fun to say Stay the Duck in. I'm just like having fun with this stuff. And then here's our friend Yukio from Barsai in Tokyo, right? So we're sending shirts all over the world. I think this 6, I'm going to draw your attention to these. I don't know how well you can see them. Maybe you can see them well enough to know that this F is messed up. This is underprinted. This stay is a disaster. I think I spilt something on this one. It doesn't matter. I challenge you to complain about my terrible printing. Right? How dare you, right? Once it's Somerville, Massachusetts, Barsai in Tokyo, 13th floor, Austin, Hope for the Day, which is suicide awareness and prevention, based out of Chicago. We're spreading this help. And then Dark Matter sells out of their stay the fuck inside bags. So we make another one. Surely it's time for get the fuck in the shower, you filthy bastard. And this coffee, in a similarly printed brown paper bag, comes with a bar of soap, 100% goat's milk. It's made from the coffee grounds of get the fuck out of bed coffee. And it's made by our friends at the Art Farm in Decatur, Illinois. So now we're taking stay the fuck inside money, which we got ourselves, and we're sending it down to Decatur to come back to us in the form of coffee bean shaped, coffee bean flavored, 100% goat's milk soap that we put in the bags and then send them up to Dark Matter for them to go, oh my goodness, here's something else. And the message is starting to spread. If I was trying to spread the message of stay the fuck inside, this is a pretty decent way of doing it, right? It's an interesting little kind of marketing exercise. Then George Floyd happens and we pivot. We start to help minority, black-owned business, anybody who's jumping in. And here's a band, the Ganser Band, and they offer their Bandcamp money, 50% of their Bandcamp money on a Bandcamp Friday to give to the Chicago Food Depository and to bail funds for anybody protesting that's arrested and thrown in jail. So I'm like, okay, never mind the expense of you making T-shirts. We'll make shirts for you. So we make shirts for them and we make some banners so they have more money to give to the causes that they're working with. We're enabling them to do more. Chelsea Carter is a fashion designer who's featured on, what is it? Discovery Channel's Making the Cut. And we printed a bunch of shirts for her. It's an authenticity test T-shirt, which is really cool to sell. I'm so pleased we were able to help her with it. My friend Chris Minto, we made some shirts for him. I love you, Cam, to generate money to create educational opportunities, materials, software, and music hardware for at-risk youth on the South Side. My friend Ad2 is a mentor and runs a place called the Haven Studio at 46th and King Drive on the south side of Chicago. And the studio complex literally is a haven for at-risk youth over there. And he has a new album out called Jim Crow, the Musical. And oh my goodness, it's fantastic. So we made a bunch of shirts for Ad to distribute however he wanted. So we're making stories. We are making the stories by doing all of this stuff. And stories create dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and visibility, right? But this is where it gets interesting. Before you go, oh yeah, stories, that's nice. Art, that's nice. Creativity. Even I think when somebody says creativity, I naturally think of somebody cutting up pieces of felt and there's glitter and glue involved, right? Creativity is very different than that, but I think like that. So this guy, David J.P. Phillips, there's a TEDx talk. He detailed this experiment that a journalist called Rob Walker had done. And he bought 200 objects off eBay for $129. And the experiment was that he put those objects back online onto eBay with a story attached. I remember one object was just a horrifying pottery horse's head, badly painted. And he attached a story to it, like, oh, I'll never forget the badly painted, badly made pottery horse's head that used to be in my grandma's kitchen. I'd come down the stairs, and sometimes it was so cold I'd see my breath as she poured milk into the jug, and there would be the horse's head. Whatever, right? He hired a bunch of people to write stories to attach to the objects to put back onto eBay. And then he sold those objects. For $8,000. So when I say, ooh, we made a story, there is a monetization of stories that, well, that is literally is valuable, right? It's not just a story for the hell of it. So, one of my new classes, it's called Revenue Streams, but in the middle of that class is a spreadsheet. And there's all the usual stuff, cost of goods, whatever, the margins. But then there's a column for story. There's a column for vibe. There's a column for longevity. There's a column for social capital, right? And if we're not thinking about all of those things, we're not thinking about the big picture and the opportunities that are in front of us right now. So then I get my own story. As you can imagine, if your equation enables you to help to the tune of $900, but it only costs you $100 and a little bit of time and effort to do that, it's difficult to stop doing that. So after a few weeks of this, I'm exhausted. I mean, honestly, we're just exhausted. And my house is like 4 blocks from my office. I walk down the street and I see this big white envelope in the mailbox. I'm like, oh, good things don't normally come to me in big white envelopes. And but I open it up, and it's a bar towel for a bar in Brooklyn called Halyards. And Emily had kind of accidentally watched a free screen printing workshop I was doing. Another reaction to the pandemic. I started doing free touring classes on a Monday and just free workshops whenever. And I think she was slightly losing her mind. And one of her friends said, watch this workshop. Martin's crazy. He says fuck a lot, and you might forget your troubles for like an hour. And basically I was saying, look, I made a bag. And you could make the bag too. And this is how you do it. You make the screen, then you go like this, and boom, there's a bag. And she did exactly that. She shot a screen with her bar's logo and went on a bar towel and sold the bar towel for $14 to customers who wanted to help her. And her partner, because Halyards is right on the bay in Brooklyn, got used sailcloth and made growler carrying bags with the logo stitched with the shipping, I don't know, whatever the hell you do, right? And those sell for $75. And so as I'm sitting in my back garden, exhausted from a really long week, I read the words like, your workshop helped save my bar. I'm like, whoa. So then I go online and I look, well, what is Halyards? And it's just exactly the place you want to be helping. Pints of beer are still free to first responders. And like, that's it. I am re-energized, right? Oh, actually, I wasn't. I fell asleep pretty soon afterwards. But I was energized inside, and you could see all the stuff I've described. It happens over a really short period of time, right? It's only May that we get this to this point. So now it's time to add another coffee. Brush the fuck out of your teeth. I figure if you've stayed the fuck inside, if you've got the fuck in the shower, it's time to brush the fuck out of your teeth. And we make those same bags again. And this one, oh, I've lost my little tube of toothpaste. Oh, no, I didn't. This one comes with a toothbrush and a little tube of toothpaste. Because why not? And now we enter the world of 1970s gas station collect the set models of customer engagement, right? I print a commemorative poster, Art in a Time of Crisis, that's signed and numbered. March to August 2020. I think I made this for me, really. I want to see this poster on the wall when the next avalanche of shit hits me in the face and go, okay, well, we've done this before. What are we going to do this time? And of course, we overprice the badly printed commemorative poster. I think it's $35, which is way too much, but it comes free when you buy each of the bags that make the set. So we're not existing in a vacuum. I'm not saying, ooh, art, right? We're still trying to drive sales. We're still trying to generate money so we can keep on having fun. So here's a lesson. It just doesn't matter if the bags are smudged and badly printed, fingerprinted, or stepped on by Doc Marten boots. It just doesn't matter. And it's important, I think. I don't know who's on this call, but oftentimes when I'm talking to artists, there's a pursuit of perfection, which blinds people to everything that's in front of them. The context, if you like. One of my favorite examples is, here we go, this is kind of timely, a Christmas album. A mediocre Christmas album that's finished now is actually way better for all of our purposes than the most amazing Christmas album that's finished December 27th, right? So there's clearly a point at which the pursuit of perfection is actually fucking things up for you, right? You're going to sell more mediocre Christmas albums in November than you are at the end of December. So I see so many artists who use that, I think, maybe because they're frightened. It's a very frightening thing to say, hey, what do you think? Like, it didn't occur to me when I took the bags to Dark Matter Coffee, like, here's $15,000. I was just like, hey, I made some bags. And they're like, oh, fuck, cool. And I didn't know what they were going to do with them. You know, a few hours later, they were up on the website and boom, they're like, hey, we need some more of those bags. But we often don't know what the end result is when we're doing stuff. We just do stuff. So be careful of that perfection thing. Here's another really good example. Here's like a bad quality slide of a good example. On Thursday of last week, we had a documentary screening of a documentary called Who the Fuck Is That Guy? Yes, every single slide has fuck in it somewhere. Sorry. It's a documentary with a really fantastic person. Michael Anthony Alago signed Metallica when he was 24. So anybody who's 24 out there, what the fuck are you doing? He signed Metallica when he was 24. He ended up executive producing Nina Simone's last album. He worked with Cyndi Lauper and White Zombie. I mean, just transitioned after surviving AIDS, transitioned into becoming an erotic photographer in the Mapplethorpe tradition. Like, just a super interesting guy. So we arranged to screen the documentary on Thursday night with the filmmaker. And the filmmaker, Drew Stone, his father won an Academy Award for a film he made. I don't remember what it was called. But so the people watching this documentary are some people who care about all kinds of things on the technical end, on the filmmaking end, whatever. And speaking of the pursuit of perfection, at some points in the screening, the lag between the picture and the sound, the voices coming out of people's mouths was like 6 seconds. I mean, it was kind of unbelievable, to the point where I was just waiting for the filmmaker the filmmaker's dad, Michael Anthony Alago, or just anybody who was on the session to just say, stop. What we can't watch this anymore. What is happening? But nothing happened. People were in the Zoom chat, delighted to chat with each other, to ask questions, to answer questions. And the overall experience, it meant that this ridiculous 6, 7, 8 second lag, which was absolutely technically unacceptable, was kind of fine. So the latitude that people will give you right now to fuck up is equal to the gratitude they feel for just you doing something. So if that was a formula, it would be the latitude equals the gratitude. If you watch CNN right now, the same thing is going on. A year ago, any of the interviews they were conducting over whatever it is, webcast, Skype, whatever they're using, would have been intolerable. But now I'm watching interviews on primetime CNN. People are just frozen. Did I give you a heart attack there, Nick? Sorry. You know, like, and you just wait, and they'll go for a few seconds. They're going for longer and longer and longer to wait and hope and pray that somebody's Wi-Fi, somebody's kids get off the Wi-Fi and they can keep the interview going. So this is really a time to smudge the print, to fuck up on the technical end, and be excused and be out there for people. If I go to J. Crew and get a shirt from J. Crew, and there's like a cat hair. There appears to be a cat hair on this shirt. I'm going to hit the fire alarm. I'm going to call the police. There's a fucking cat hair on this shirt. This is not J. Crew, and that's not happening. Lesson 2. Gratuitous. We all know what that means. I don't have to talk about that. It sounds like a village in Wales. It's the first part of something I say a lot. Great things happen when you do stuff. The last part of it is nothing happens when you don't. Like, I don't know what mediocre, good, or great things are going to happen when you do stuff. I don't know. But I know for an absolute, indisputable fact that nothing happens when you don't. So fucking do something, basically, would be my point there. And never mind what cannot be done. Not interested. What can be. And this is where older people such as myself and anybody who's in the music industry who has toured is at a huge advantage. So speaking as somebody in the music business, I have my own record label, my own recording studio, or whatever. I remember when drum machines were invented, maybe the 70s. I got a few phone calls. It's over for you then, Martin. I'm like, oh, what's happened? They've got machines now, drum machines. And I don't think I slept for a week until I heard the first drum machine. Boop, 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 boop. I'm like, okay. And drum machines are great now, but they're still not as good as the brain of a drummer that thinks differently. I saw vinyl, cassettes, 8-track cartridges, then the advent of the CD, digital music. Analog is great, but it's cumbersome. It's all digital. And now, screw the CDs. We've got iTunes and people are downloading songs. And then the streaming. So now there's no money because thank you, Spotify. And vinyl's back, right? If you've been through any of this stuff or you've been on tour and you walk into the venue, Nashville, here we come. Oh my goodness, it looks like this venue was broken into and the sound system has been stolen and all the mics have been smashed with a hammer. No, that's just the equipment that everybody uses at this venue. And you make it work. The monitors don't work. The toilets don't work. Nothing works. You have to. And if it's not external, maybe it's internal. Maybe everybody in the band or everybody in your ballet company has got horrifying diarrhea from the seafood restaurant in Portugal or the seafood restaurant in Nashville. You make it work. So we're at a huge advantage, I think, now, because we make things work. And I can talk about what can't be done, and I don't know what I could cry. I could wring my hands in anguish. I have a pretty successful band called Pigface, and everybody's in Pigface. Danny Carey from Tool, Flea from the Chili Peppers, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, and 497 other people. We had a 42-date tour of North America booked. All of the work permits and the flights were bought, issued, and paid for. Right? I know what can't be done. It just doesn't make any sense to cry about that. So then we decided to do this. The Stay the Fucking Side tour. I think it's Molly's idea. Like, hey, we could do a Stay the Fucking Side tour. And we decided to stream our last show from November 2019 and have some fun with it. We made contributions to Black Lives Matter, NEVA, and Hope for the Day, suicide awareness. We thought we were going to do it October the 3rd. At the last minute, thank goodness, we postponed till the 10th of October. And as I was saying to Nick earlier, it seems to me like this was a year ago. It was a month ago. So we put on this event. We're deepening our connections with people. We're creating visibility and generating another story. And these are my jazz hands. I don't know why I needed a slide with jazz hands, because I think I can do pretty good jazz hands. And when I say jazz hands, I'm like, don't just do one thing, do 10, right? Do 10 things. Or how about 57? If we're going to stream a Pigface show, why don't we involve as many venues as want to be involved, give them their own unique ticketing code, and let them have at it. And to incentivize them, because we're decent people, we'll give them 50% of the tickets that they generate. And we get data from the ticketing company who are prepared to generate all of these codes. And I can sort the data, and I can look, this is within a couple of hours. I can see that some venues, once in Somerville, remember we made a shirt for them. They sold 7 tickets in a couple of hours pretty quickly. Cked in North Carolina, the Starlight Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Fantastic hustlers running this tiny little bar in Tulsa. I always stop off there on the way to South by Southwest or the way back and do a spoken word thing or a DJ set. We couldn't even fit all of Pigface in there to have a drink, but we can work with them to deepen our connection with them and host our live stream. So now I can see, through sorting my data, 27 of these 56 venues are selling tickets, 29 haven't. So I start to post venues' codes on their behalf with a personalized picture. This is the Warehouse in La Crosse. This is Bar Redux in New Orleans, Thalia Hall in Chicago, Indie CD and Vinyl in Indianapolis, and the Beachland Ballroom in Cleveland. I want these venues to see that I am helping them, because maybe, like Dark Matter Coffee for that one day, they're just like paralyzed, right? Creatively frozen. So we just keep posting. At this point, I'm just falling asleep, smashing myself with my phone in the face. But we're not relying on the venues to sell tickets, right? I'm jazz handsing the hell out of this. We create a VIP ticket package with a poster, a ticket, and a T-shirt, which comes directly to us, and we can promote this and monitor this. And we're seeing huge conversion on our website. We know enough to track that too. So we've got all of these things going on. We've got the event, we've got direct sales, we've got 57 venues, we've got a mechanism to sell ourselves, and we can double check in almost real time who's using the links, who isn't. Do we need a safety net? I'll answer my own question. Yes, we do. How about 2 safety nets? Here's a live recording on red vinyl, hand screened, glow in the dark, with a souvenir photo insert of the show that we're streaming. Right. So however well this whole event does, it's drawing attention to a double album that we've put out. And here's my second safety net. I advise artists all the time to create and curate the museum of you, right? And that's something I've been doing, I mean, honestly, since 1979. When we were at the BBC Radio doing a session for John Peel, I've still got just down here behind me, a paper cup from the BBC 41 years ago. I am creating and curating the museum of me. Also taking a much longer term view of a career. You don't have a one-year career anymore. If you plan to not have one, you can have a 45-year career if you start to plan this out, create and curate the museum of you. So then, this was a tour I did with the band Ministry in 1990 or 91. That's me in a stripy shirt with, sadly, second drummer who's no longer with us, Bill Rieflin. We played behind this cage. So here's a piece of that cage, right? I'm creating and curating the museum of me. Here's the certificate of authenticity, the provenance of the piece. And we put that together with a book and a double album as a great auction item. I'm also unnecessary as much as I can be. I understand money. I've been doing this for a long time, but money doesn't stop me from doing things that are unnecessary. This is a close-up shot of my band Pigface. And you can see in the back a little bit of some of the scenery. It's hand-screened. Some of these pieces are glow in the dark, 50 feet high, 60 feet across. I see some bands with a little banner, like the biggest banner they will make at FedEx. Like, come on, man. You've got to own the stage all the way from bottom to the top, left to right. Not only do we do that, but we unnecessarily screen print the skirts around the drum risers. But once you unnecessarily print the skirts around the drum risers, you can cut them up for memorabilia and auction items. So we put this auction together. 50% of the auction goes to our causes. There's a mirror ball to the right of my drum kit. And it looks great, as you can see from these photographs by Jody Sargent. But it's there for me to clear my head. All of this business stuff is going around my head until I punch that mirror ball. And then usually with a couple of pieces of glass embedded in my knuckles and blood going everywhere, it clears my head. The pain clears my head. But what a great item to auction. Most bands with 5 drummers, the drum heads are an expense. Not when you recycle them and spray paint them and autograph them, splatter paint them. And here's one of the 5 drum kits we have on stage where I'm going out into the audience and letting the audience play on this drum. It's another great photograph of Jody Sargent. And I think that ended up selling for about $600. We ended up making about $5,000 from the auction total. And we also honor everybody, because we're rock and roll. The back of a t-shirt has more life than an inscription on a tombstone, right? Maybe all the shirts from the 80s don't fit anymore, but they're still cherished, right? So we create a shirt to honor everybody, which creates another set of work. Because if you're honoring people on the back of a shirt, you better spell their names right. But you can do this stuff. It's just work. We use horizontal expansion for those of you in event management. We have the live stream on 1010. We do a Zoom event 2 days before. We do it, in case you missed it, 50% off the day after. And we use vertical expansion. We do a 4 o'clock chat day of the show and after parties and a stream 2 days after, right? It's a great approach for anything. We're helping venues, which is awesome. We're strengthening relationships for the future. That is not nothing. If you told me in 1981, when I played at the Cabaret Metro in Chicago, over by the Cubs, Wrigley Field, that I would still know Joe Shanahan, the owner, 40 years later, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But I do. And it changes how you look at things. And by honoring people, anytime you're doing something, you could put their name on the back of a shirt in the credits for the documentary that you're screening, and you forget how important that is for people. I peed a little when I saw my name on the Pigface show's credit. And that's important as an entrepreneur. Low cost to you, high value to the consumer. This is the essence of that. We just typed a bunch of names in a very special place. So we sold 643 tickets for the stream, which wasn't bad in an area where lots of people are doing things for free at the moment. Venues got about $2,500. We got about $2,500. We sold 177 VIP packs, which raised about $5,000. And we sold 260 tickets out of the 640, plus the auctions did nearly $5,000. So we did some pretty decent good. I was going to say for not much effort, but it was a ton of effort. It was so much effort. It was so much effort. More lessons. Well, Gutwidis. We know Gutwidis. Art is an elbow. Throw it. If you want to go a little bit more violent, art is a knife. Lick it. Whatever. Creativity, art are weapons. Use those weapons. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. With hindsight, we should have started the auction 10 days earlier to generate interest in the stream, and it should have finished the day of the stream. So almost like a Jerry Lewis telethon. And the floor tom-tom is at $500. Ooh, here's the link. Whatever. It ended a week after the event, but still, woulda, shoulda, coulda. This was kind of crazy. We never created the long sleeve shirt. I remember I had a Post-it note with a design for a long sleeve shirt that said, Pigface everywhere all at once, right? And I was going to do this. So it said Pigface everywhere all at once. I'm like, we never did it. Except we did. We did the art, we shot the screens, and this is the test shirt. I just forgot that we did it and didn't sell any. I even ordered all the long sleeve blank shirts. I guess I'm just saying, prepare to be really, really exhausted and lose your mind. I also want to say you should be more like Melissa Etheridge. And I know everybody joins me in this, but I've been using her as a model recently. I attended an event 2 weeks ago thrown by Kevin Lyman, who owns the Warped Tour, and he teaches at USC now. And he did like a conference called Adapt. And Melissa Etheridge's manager spoke, and it was like, whoa. When the pandemic hit, as I was silly me printing paper bags, she just went on Facebook Live for 57 days in a row at 3:00 and did a show for her fans and had a lot of people attend those shows. Her son died from an opioid-related accident. I'm not sure what happened. So she took a month and came back on a platform called Maestro, which is a white label platform you can customize to your own needs, and created like Etheridge TV. She should have created Melissa TV, and she could have done like an MTV logo, like hijack the MTV logo. But now she does 5 days a week on her own platform. One day she's just going through a box of videos, playing videos. One day she does a kind of a talk show with her partner. One day she does cover songs. One day she does a concert, and I don't know what she does on the other day. But she has 1,000 subscribers who pay $50 a month to see what she's doing. And now she has a 7-camera mobile rig in a studio in her garage where she does all this stuff from. And it's important to note, it's a mobile rig, because when things go back to normal, which, newsflash, they're not going to, and here's why. Once things do get back to normal, they won't be back to normal because Melissa Etheridge will be on the road with her 7-camera studio, right? So she'll be broadcasting live from somewhere. She'll be doing an event in the afternoon, right? I know that when I go back on the road, I'm going to have a Zoom chat on my drum riser. I'll call it the Mirrorball Zoom chat, and maybe we'll do a concave thing to the Zoom window, the Brady Bunch Zoom window, so everybody's like a panel of the Mirrorball, and I'll punch the Mirrorball, and I'll have a camera in my bunk. So when I finish drumming and leaving everything on stage, I'll lie in my bunk after a show, bleeding and crying from the pain in my knees. And that'll be an extra subscription, of course, but things are not going to go back to the way they were. Melissa Etheridge version 1 was Facebook for 57 days. Version 2 was Melissa Etheridge on Maestro. Version 2 of her new platform, iteration 3, they've seen her fans cluster into small groups. And when there's 1,000 people online, the chat is just a swirling matrix-style, confusing windstorm of letters. So people are going into smaller groups off on Facebook and in different places. They're going to start to enable that on Melissa Etheridge's platform so those can be more engaged and be more productive. So by the time Christmas comes along, she'll be on version 4. They'll be looking and using their creativity to take this platform to the next level. By the time she's on the road again, let's say summer of next year, she'll be on version 10 of whatever it is, right? With a camera in a hat. Who knows what's going to happen? And if you're waiting to jump into this till things get back to normal, Melissa Etheridge is going to be 10 iterations ahead of you, which I kind of like. Good on her, right? But you don't want that to be you. 10 iterations behind Melissa Etheridge. So now, the ceiling that we strive for becomes the floor. Last weekend, we did the world's first Scratch and Sniff music business conference. Inspired by movie maker John Waters, he had a card in the 70s. You could go and see his movie and a number would flash on the screen. So we've gone completely analog. We're joining people together with the most powerful memory prompt there is, the olfactory system, the sense of smell. And so at certain points during the day, we have people scratch. Number 7, that was for Wendy Day, who did the largest. She got M&M signed. She did the Cash Money deal. That 7 is supposed to be the smell of money, and maybe I haven't smelt enough money, but it doesn't feel like it smells of money. 5 is coffee. 4 is vanilla. 3 was burning rubber in honor of a Metallica video, and they really captured that smell more effectively than you'd want them to. Number 1 is banana, because I had a story about bananas. And we just went completely analog with this whole thing. You might think that's a new plugin from OBS. No, it's a picture of a nose on the end of my Ryobi drill. So we just started to have some fun with this and connect people in different ways. Andy Cernovitz has a great quote. He's a word of mouth guy. He says, advertising is the cost of being boring. So the expense and the time and the effort of something like this pays off in money you don't have to spend on advertising. And this is the last thing. Well, there's 2 things. There's 2 more things we're doing. We just did the conference last week, and I was on camera from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. But it was just tremendous. In 2 weeks' time, on the 27th, we're going to screen the Pigface show at a drive-in within the city limits of Chicago. If you can see this is one of the towers of the Sears Tower, Willis Tower now. And I can imagine a drone shot from where this picture was taken, seeing my band on stage, and then the drone rises and you'll see the Chicago skyline, probably 20 blocks behind this drive-in theater. And that just, I can't wait to see that shot. Chicago is the home of industrial music and the home of my band Pigface. So I just want to get that shot. And now we're working with the drive-in theater to work out how we can, I think the first row of tickets will be $85 to $100. Everything else will be $55 per car. One bucket of beers per car. But we're trying to minimize any contact whatsoever. So I know people will want to get out and say hi. I'm going to stand and freeze by this sign and greet every car from a distance as they arrive, right? And then people can sit back and watch the movie. And then, as it turns out, Saturday is the 30th anniversary of an album I played on with Killing Joke. So I cannot not hold a 3-hour Zoom event celebrating that. In fact, if you look behind me, there's a dollar bill. The first scenery that I ever screen printed for a video we did called Money Is Not Our God in 1990 here in Chicago at the Metro. So I don't know if I'll have this event totally slick together. I'm going to go in my studio, drop the needle on an album and sit and talk to people. I probably have 200 slides and photographs still to put together. But I do know that anybody who comes to that event, and we made it a pay what you want event, some people have paid $1 for that ticket. Some people have paid $100. That's how that stuff works. Whatever you can do, do. Everybody who comes to that event is going to be happy to spend that time. There's going to be some great stuff going on in the chat. And whatever is wrong with it, even if I spent another 2 weeks working on it, I don't have 2 weeks, it's got to be Saturday. There'd still be things where as I'm doing it, I go, oh, these should have been switched and that should have led into that, right? I can sequence the event live in my head for the next time. And once I've done it the first time, I can do it the second time and the time after that. That's a lot, right? I don't know how many slides that is, but that's from March of this year till now. But it seems to me just watching my own slides that everything is accelerating exponentially. So probably by the end of the year, I'll be doing 3 events a day. It's crazy. That's my Twitter handle. Anybody wants to follow me on Twitter. And Nick, if you have any questions, I'm happy to stop sharing my screen and answer any questions that anybody has.
Cool. Well, thank you for the presentation. Definitely, I think there were a lot of insights. Something that really stuck with me that I wrote down was the force multiplier that you talked about, as well as great things happen when you do stuff. If you're not doing anything, nothing's going to get done and you're not going to make any progress. So I thought that was really insightful. So we appreciate that. Question from the chat. So how do you balance the academic approach of the lean startup methods with your seemingly emotional, free-flowing, creative, and innovative approach?
I could better answer that if I knew what lean startup methods were.
Okay. I can...
What are they? Is that like bootstrapping?
In a way, it's like how to revenue streams, who your customer is, different questions like that.
Right. Well, so I think that was my point. I made $60 worth of paper bags. And once we had the bags, we found a second use for the coffee bags, which was to put a mystery shirt in there and have a little bit of fun. Enable somebody who has a bit of money to give us some. At the same time, enabling us to give a little mystery cool gift to somebody who really needed a bit of a boost, and we just started doing it and it happened very quickly. If that's lean startup, then yeah, we lean startup the fuck out of it.
Nice. A big theme in the beginning with the t-shirt, the force multiplier you talked about. How can someone get started that maybe has an idea right now and they're thinking about it, and how can they proceed with their idea?
What, like a shirt idea?
Anything. It could be a t-shirt idea, or it could be anything.
Well, without sounding like a Nike commercial, stop thinking about it and do it.
Right.
And if you can own the method of production, I have a screen printing press, right? Which I probably got $1,500 invested in that. But the first shirt I made, I just had one screen. You can get a screen, and I'm just talking about screen printing. You can get a screen printing kit from a place like Blick Art Supplies for $80. And just like Kimmy from Halyard's Bar, she's up and running. She might do an extrapolation of like, whoa, what happens if I sell 1,000 of these bar towels? Yeah, but you don't even need to think about the 15th bar towel until you've sold the first 14. And once you do this, I call it incremental. If it's lean startup, okay. But this incremental approach, the problems start to solve themselves. It's like, how can I afford 200 bar towels? Sell 20. And now you've got $280. Go buy some. The problems solve themselves. If you do your budget and look at all the money you need, you're going to freak out. You're going to change fonts. You're going to look at I'm going to change the decimal points and do some stuff on my chart. And now you're working on charts. Just roll up your sleeves and do this stuff. If you're an artist, you might think, oh my goodness, we just wrote the most amazing song. I'm using a 12-string acoustic, and this is going to be the showstopper. And it isn't until you pull out the 12-string acoustic guitar and you launch into your most amazing song and you see your audience leave that you realize it's not your most amazing song. So absent audience feedback, customer feedback, you don't know what you're doing anyway. You can, as I do, make some predictions. I was in Germany. Tell me if I'm going off on too many tangents.
Oh, you're good. Keep going.
I was in Germany, and it's kind of like great things happen when you do stuff. Nothing happens when you don't. I have a phrase in my second book, Welcome to the Music Business, You're Fucked, which says, if you know that you're fucked, then you're not. If you think that you're not, then you are. And these students in Berlin translated it, and I remember the end of this. Bist du gefickt, wenn du weißt, dass du gefickt bist, bist du nicht gefickt. I'm like, oh my God. This is that I've stumbled into the most amazing t-shirt ever. And once I saw Bist du gefickt with a question mark in that got milk font, here we go. Look out, Mexico, my 4-week vacation is upon us. And I printed one shirt because we didn't have mock-up software there. I just printed one shirt. We took a photograph. We put it up for the avalanche of sales to happen. And to this day, that is still the only Bist du gefickt shirt we've ever printed. Nobody cared. Whereas I made a Welcome to the Music Business, You're Fucked t-shirt. And I went to South by Southwest and nearly caused 20 accidents. People were walking into lampposts. We could have sold 3,000, So you just don't know. I don't know. If I don't know, you don't know. You test the waters. You do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
That sounds great. Great. Got another question from the chat. For the new entrepreneur, any suggestions on what selling platforms to start selling art?
Yeah. Streaming is insane. we use Big Cartel, and you can put 5 items up on Big Cartel on the bus on the way home from this. Like, I mean, it's just, you can put up, I think, 5 photographs. Up to 5 items are free. Shopify is great. I think Shopify might have better integrations with MailChimp, but Big Cartel, these things are only true for a minute, right? And then Big Cartel is like, oh, really? Here's our MailChimp integration. Because you want to be able to retarget and get your conversion rates up, But whatever it is that you're comfortable with, once you've used one, I think you'll be comfortable with another. There are lots of the same things going on. But those are 2 that spring to mind. I mean, wherever you think your audience is, maybe it's on Etsy or there's a couple of like Etsy-like things, any of those. Patreon is great if you're a prolific artist with a little bit of a following. And as we redefine our ideas of what success is, like when I came up, it was a platinum album and a #1 single. I ended up with a #2 single around the world with Public Image Limited called This Is Not a Love Song. We were in Japan, we were in Australia, we were on TV, we were being licensed into movies. I had a house in LA with a swimming pool and palm trees. And that is not success. That was somebody else's idea of success in the magazines that I read when I was a kid growing up. And now success as an artist can be a few hundred people supporting your Patreon account. It doesn't take much as long as you're just trying to exist and grow and keep doing it.
Right, great. You said, so what does success mean to you?
Being able to keep doing it. An email we got from somebody after Saturday's event saying they sat down. They felt obliged to sit down at 11 o'clock on Saturday. They were still taking notes at 8 o'clock at night on Saturday. And they felt the music business had opened to them like a scripture they had previously failed to understand. And now they did. It's like, okay, success is being able to screen print something ridiculous like this and make a memory with my kids. And now I can say to my 12-year-old, well, #2 is marijuana. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, how do you know? Right. So to screen print scratch and sniff smells with my 12-year-old and my 16-year-old, just to be able to exist and do this and to tell stories, I think that's pretty successful.
Yeah, that is pretty powerful. We watched a TED Talk in one of Dr. Miller's classes and it was very much like a storytelling format. And it was just very interesting to see how the way he formatted the TED Talk. And it made it a little more powerful because he brought you in and told you a story and then got to the point instead of vice versa. So that's right. Great.
I mean, I've seen people speak, and I think I did this. I was so frightened to speak, 15 years ago. And even though I'd spent my life on stage, it's different when you're talking with a microphone and you don't have drums and a mirror ball to punch. And I was so anxious to get my point across that you end up like the equivalent of typing in capitals, and it's just bullshit. And in the end, I thought, well, wouldn't it be funny if I started talking about technology and how important technology is, and everybody's like nodding their heads. And then I inserted onto one of my slides the sound of a phone ringing. So we had that moment where everybody in the audience is looking accusatorily at everybody else going, who's the idiot with the phone? Well, it turns out that I'm the idiot with the phone. It's in my bag. And I pull out this 1980s Starsky and Hutch brick phone. I'm like, hello. And behind me is the slide that says technology, and I'm standing in front of it. And if you can make people laugh, it opens up. Then you can get some points across. and maybe the point is make people laugh and chill out a little bit,
Definitely. Cool. All right. Got a couple more questions in chat. Third one for you. How do you involve your students in your projects? Is it like involved with Pigface or anything else that you have going on?
Everything. We're working on a deal with a company from Sweden called TrackLib, that instead of licensing a sample, they license a multi-track recording and let artists take slices of the multi-tracks. So the horn stabs in J. Cole's Middle Child are from an unused 1970 track that is now done very well for J. Cole and for the label and the artists involved. So some of my students will be in my studio interning for TrackLib through me, kind of. We've taken students on a second tour bus following my band's tour bus. Because it's my band, I can tell everybody in the band, be nice to these students and go and talk to them for a minute, and they've worked the merch booth. And we saw a clown. This sounds like a ridiculous story. We saw a clown in Ohio with a leaf blower with a toilet roll holder duct taped to the end, and they went, right? And they shot this toilet roll streamer into the audience. So I'm like, okay, students, today you're going to research. I need 4 toilet roll cannons on stage by tonight. And the students were all studenty about it. They're like, well, the double ply toilet tissue can sometimes be too strong. They did all the research. It was just fantastic. And they ended up on stage with these cannons. The students were involved in this, helping to book and organize the speakers, helping to distribute the cards, and networking and connecting through it. And so I'm not afraid of having the stress. So all of the stuff that I do is kind of stressful. And you introduce students into it, you would think it would double the stress, but it kind of alleviates some stress in terms of hands-on, we call it performance learning at Millikin. The performance learning that they get, it's worth any stress. And then, students will give you amazing ideas as well. I had a student say, for this next event, could we put DJs on the L train in Chicago? And they're like, oh, no, never mind. What a crazy idea. I'm like, if we don't make it happen, I'm going to quit, So, and that became a template for Uniqlo clothing for their store launch in Chicago. So it's a two-way street. Right. And the students are, we have students interning from USC, from Brooklyn, from Portland, from all over the place. And they work with our students from Millikin. And it's just a great atmosphere, I think.
That sounds like it is great because, they're learning by doing, and they're learning from you and you're learning from them in a way too.
Yeah.
Cool. Another question. What do punk and entrepreneurship have in common? I think you touched on this a little bit, but maybe you could go a little further.
So there's a famous phrase, a meme, if you like, from the beginning of punk. It's a picture of 3 guitar necks. Here's a chord, here's another, here's a third, now start a band. And when I saw that, I've been drumming for 9 years. I'm like, what do you mean? Surely you have to rehearse for like 5 years and get really good. And then, like, no, punk was like, fuck it, just do it. Like, I think Nike owes a lot to punk. And what happened was people just did it. And the enthusiasm and the originality outweighed any supposed lack of the yardstick of somebody else's idea of talent and energy. And just doing it became something. So you have now an artist like John Langford, who was in a band called the Mekons, 1980. He became the drummer. Why? Because it was easier to steal his cousin's drum kit. And so he got the drum kit. And now he's a painter of repute who exhibits around the world. He's written protest albums against the death penalty and made a difference there. And he's arranged and organized music for the Welsh Men's Choir. But it started with like, fuck it, let's go. And the more I research this, the roots of that are with Woody Guthrie, who said 3 chords are too many, So there's an energy about punk. And not people with mohawks. There's nothing wrong with a mohawk, but there are people who are still templating that attitude, and that's fine. But it's the underlying philosophy of punk. Question anything, just do it. That's the punk thing for me.
That's great. Great. Another one, love your approach to network building. Started with Cabaret Metro 40 years ago. What specific thing can my students do today so that in 40 years, they can have your kind of network?
Well, that's easy. Stop being shit, start being awesome, and don't be an asshole. I mean, honestly, in the music business, we were all so insecure that sometimes insecurity can come out as bravado. It's weird. And so I'll fool everybody into believing I know what I'm doing by going, you over there, hurry up. And you just look like an asshole. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had my moments. I got into a fight with Kevin Lyman before he had the Warped Tour. He was bringing beers back to our dressing room. And I don't know, they weren't cold enough. I was talking to Kevin about it last week. The beers weren't cold enough or something. And I thought I was having an interaction with some kid bringing beers back to the dressing room. If I'd known then I was having an interaction with the guy who would start the Warped Tour and teach at USC and become a mentor to me and a mentor to my kids. But I think you have to proceed as if every interaction you have is potentially with a person like that. Be nice to everyone and be nicest to the person with the least reason you can think of for you to be nice to them. So it will never be easier to make someone's day. If someone's having a bad day that isn't in a great position, you can make their day by going, hey, you want this sandwich? Hey, there's 2 extra cups of Starbucks here. Do you want one? Or just don't be an asshole. Don't make their job worse. And you don't know what else is compounding the shit. Maybe they just got their electricity cut off or a relationship started or ended. They both could be equally bad. And you just don't know what weight is on somebody else's shoulders. So the other thing that was difficult for us when I came up, I thought a career in the music business was 2 to 3 years maximum. Like a soccer player might have 7 years in the English Premier League. But, you can have a lot, obviously, you can have a long career doing this. And I wish I could go back and change some of the things, some of the toes that I trampled on. And in some cases, I've been able to do that. I apologized to Kevin Lyman in front of 600 people at an event in New York. I stopped the event. I said, look, before we go any further, I want to apologize for being an asshole 20 years ago. But you just realize you might not get that opportunity. Just be nice to everyone.
I think what you touched on, a little bit of empathy to putting yourself in the shoes of someone else. You don't know what they're going through. They could be having a really terrible day, and a simple "How are you doing?" or a text or could lighten their day. So I think that's right. Awesome.
And also, empathy. There's a selfish component to empathy. You need, as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, you need to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. What does the market need right now? You're putting yourself in the market's shoes, right? You just do that with people. It's the same thing.
Right. All right. Performance learning. Do you have a reading or podcast or video about that? I would assign that to my kids tomorrow.
I don't think I do. If you follow me on Twitter, MARTEEEEN, 4 E's, like I post about the performance learning that's going on with my Millikin students. And I think, you remember what I said about the ceiling becomes the floor? Performance learning is a curve, and it takes a while to get people on board. And once you get people on board, more and more things that seem frightening become performance learning opportunities. And it's just like the virus, it starts to grow exponentially. So just stay in touch. And I'm doing some free classes online on a Monday night, my touring class, which it's a pretty good touring class. That was the first book I wrote. It was the first class I taught at Columbia College, Chicago, 16 years ago. But the other part of that touring class is the community that's going on off to the side in the chat with a kid from New Zealand, a guy from El Salvador, and people just hanging out on a Monday. It's pretty cool.
That's great. All right. What innovations do you see in the art and music industry in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, I see very clearly that things are cyclical. So my response to Zoom fatigue is to go analog, scratch and sniff. And my response to computer graphics is to say, okay, OBS doesn't do that. StreamYard doesn't do that. It's just to have fun and be tactile. So that's my response, and at some point, everybody will go digital and there'll be no more Zoom. People will take a Greyhound bus to meet in person and sit around the campfire, and when they're doing that, I'll be like, fuck that, digital, stream it, here we go, everything is cyclical. When punk started, everybody was wearing really wide flared pants and punk was straight. It's just, everything has a cycle to it. So I have no clue. I know the best way to be prepared for what the future holds is just to be neck deep in this shit, and then you see it coming, Right. It's when you're waiting for something. Now, as I said, you're 3 steps behind Melissa Etheridge right now, just get in and make the mistakes, and everybody will forgive the mistakes. When everybody comes out of this, there'll be so much noise in the places you think you want to be, you won't be able to get in there. The time to make the connection, I mentioned my touring class in the chat, right? When you launch onto the scene, hey, everybody, the touring class is all going to meet each other for their annual barbecue in Chicago, right? These connections that are being formed now are the connections that are going to last.
Right. Immerse yourself, better to do and make mistakes than just think and wait for a perfect opportunity.
Exactly.
From Ann Hogue, thank you from a kid who spent a lot of time at Cabaret Metro in the early 80s. Punk definitely inspired me then, and now you're reminding me why.
It's a great venue. It's such a great venue.
Cool.
Mythological place almost,
Is that based out of Chicago?
Yeah, it's down by Wrigley Field where the Cubs play, and it's as close as industrial music or punk will get to be like a church. It's like you feel the music still vibrating in there without going all spiritual on everybody. But there's definitely a vibe. There's definitely a vibe.
All right, I got a fun question for you.
They've all been fun.
So you're a punk rock drummer. Have you ever played Rock Band or Guitar Hero drums?
Yeah. I think we also got the DJ one, and I wasn't that good. Is that where this is going? Yeah, I was. Just
I just curious. Punk rock drummer and how it translates.
Yeah, it doesn't. But there was definitely a stand back. I've got this. Thank goodness there was only a couple of people there because it was embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm more of a guitar. I'm not too good on drums or singing, but I'll go guitar with my roommates and I. So
there you go.
All right. Last question I have for you. We have about 5 minutes left. So you've done all these things. You've won a Grammy, been punk rock drummer. What inspired you to pursue art education at Millikin?
So I'm going to answer this do we have to stop in 5 minutes? Because this could be like a long 5-minute answer.
Oh yeah, we can keep going.
Okay. So there's a few parts to this question. One would be, how did I start teaching in the first place? Let's do that first. I went to Columbia College, Chicago, because they're 2 miles up the street from me. And I wanted to get some interns. At that point, my band Pigface was touring. I was putting together international 5-band touring packages in 3 buses with 80,000 promotional postcards from 10 different sponsors, 20,000 promotional CDs, Jägermeister, etc. Right? And I heard about interns. So I went to Columbia College to get some. And I did a presentation. We're doing this. These are all the things we do. Boom, boom, boom. I've been doing this since I was 9. I did this. I did that. And they said, when can you start? And I said, I can take interns with me now. I put them in my car and we can get this thing going. And they said, no, when can you start teaching? And I said, teaching what? Exactly. And they said, teaching touring. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I left school when I was 16. And they said, well, clearly you're an expert at this. You should come and teach. And the punkiest thing, the craziest punk thing I could think of to say was yes. And I thought, this will be an interesting little opportunity. This will be an interesting thing. This will be an interesting stick to hit my kids with. I am a teacher. Listen to me, right? But when I walked into the first class, like just a few days later, when I walked into the first class, I pick up this textbook. And I'm like, can any student tell me when this textbook was written? And nobody could. It was written in 1964, like theatrical touring through the ages. I'm like, what the hell? So I started to write my first book. And I thought, now that's the opportunity. But once my first book was finished, it became a music business bestseller on Amazon. And I went to more places speaking about the business. Norway 5 times, Australia to keynote Melbourne Music Week, South America, Medellin, Santiago, Chile, everywhere. That was the opportunity. So anyway, fast forward a bunch, and now I write curriculum, and I have my master's degree. I don't even know what my master's degree is in, but I've got one. And when I went down, first off, the campus at Millikin is just like, it's kind of relaxing. It just feels good. And secondly, and most important, the dean down there and everybody I work with down there, lets me do what I want. That's not right. I think they believe in the manifestation of what I'm trying to bring to the table. And in a very brave way for a traditional school of music, they're allowing me to disrupt certain parts of it and underline their idea of performance learning. And like, you want performance learning? Put the students on the tour bus. Denver, here we come. So that's why Millikin, and they continue to support me and then encourage me. You know, my Instagram handle is Flowers Fight for Sunshine, and that's kind of shows the vulnerable side of me. That I'm just a little flower, and sometimes I need a bit of sunshine. And so, in a very simple way, in a non-academic way, Millikin gives me a little bit of sunshine and waters me occasionally, and provides a really a great supportive environment where I feel free to take more risks, especially when it comes down to the student experience.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing. Those are all the questions we have prepared. Do you have any parting words before I give the closing remarks?
Yeah, if this might not seem like an entrepreneurially great idea, my third book, Band Smart, is 650 pages with hundreds of interesting, smart people contributing to that. If you go to martinatkins.com, you can just get a download of that book. I think that's going on for the next week or two. Follow me on social media, and everybody says this and nobody ever does. Send me a tweet, follow me, ask me a question. If you think of a question tomorrow, like, oh my God, ask me, follow me and hit me up and I'll answer you. You'll be surprised. I'll answer you straight back.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you for your time and for your presentation. I love the energy. I love the creativity. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. For everyone in the audience, there is a brief survey listed in the comment section. If you're willing to fill that out, it'd be really helpful for future events. And again, the event schedule for GEW can be found at gew.psu.edu. But everyone have a great evening. And thank you again, Martin. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Have a good one.
I'm Jonathan Ortmans, and I'm with Global Entrepreneurship Week. Global Entrepreneurship Week is challenging to understand in some respects because it's 35,000 events happening at the same time in 125 different countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week offers you the opportunity to come and test your aptitude. Join a networking event. Come and meet a mentor. Come and experience a boot camp. Come and experience some other element of the startup community in your city, in your town, and learn about whether or not at some point in your life you may have the interest and the skill to be able to join a startup. And I think this has been effective in allowing people to feel that they're not only driving more of their fellow citizens to consider the path of entrepreneurship in their own countries, but they're learning and participating with people from other nations. It's really in the hearts and the minds of the individuals in each of these countries. There's a way that now we think entrepreneurs might be the force for change in their countries for things beyond just economic change, that they can actually make the world a better place. The field of entrepreneurship is no longer something of narrow commercial significance. It's something of more cultural consequence. It's something that represents the possibility of human endeavor for the benefit of all. The globalization of startup communities actually gives the world a much better chance at solving some of the intractable challenges of the decades past. So in a sense, we see more citizens trying their hand at helping the world innovate its way out of its challenges. The world needs